him quietly. Rumpelstiltskin woke with a headache and a lingering memory of saying too much. It was amazing how difficult it was to keep quiet when dealing with a head injury. He tilted his head, relieved that the bed was empty, though he could see the hollow where Mary Margaret had curled beside him through the night. He rose, dressed, and descended the stairs. The sound of female voices speaking in low murmurs reached him from the kitchen, and he paused on the staircase. There were 3 voices. It seemed Miss Swan's hunt had been successful. "Hi, Mr. Gold." He turned his head. "Henry." Henry Mills waved from one of the big chairs in the living room. He was sitting cross-legged, a latter-day Peter Pan, and he had his book in his lap. "Cinderella's in the kitchen," he said. "I have to stay through here. I think they don't want me to hear them talking about why she ran away." Rumpelstiltskin's lips twitched. "I'm sure you probably know more than they do," he said, walking a little closer to the boy. "Very interesting book you have there." Henry looked up at him. There was a shrewdness to the boy. He had his grandparents' courage and nerve, but he could not have been raised by Regina without a little of that rubbing off on him as well. "What's your favorite story?" Rumpelstiltskin laughed quietly. "Now there's a question," he said. "They all have their own merit." Henry closed the book over, resting his forearms on the cover. "Do you think it's true?" "Does it matter whether I think it is or not? Would that change how true it is?" Henry shrugged. "I guess not." He put his head to one side. "You have a SpongeBob Band-Aid on your head. Is that where Cinderella hit you?" Rumpelstiltskin winced, reaching up to peel the sticky abomination off. "That's where my cabinet hit me," he said. He balled the Band-Aid up, then studied the boy. "So, you think Mary Margaret is Snow White and young Miss Boyd is Cinderella? Who do you think I am?" The boy's brown eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "I'm still trying to figure you out," he said. "Who do you think you are?" Rumpelstiltskin allowed a flash of a grin to cross his face. "You think I couldn't guess?" Henry's mouth dropped open. "You know?" Rumpelstiltskin tapped the side of his nose. "Perhaps," he said. "I'll make a deal with you." He leaned closer until they were almost nose to nose. "If you can guess who I think I am with only one guess, I'll tell you what I know of your book." Henry eyed him suspiciously. "How can I trust you? You're Mr. Gold." Rumpelstiltskin grinned. "That's your mother talking," he said. "Though if you agree, you cannot breathe a word of this to anyone. Not until the time is right." "Not even Emma?" Rumpelstiltskin shook his head sternly. "Not anyone. And if you break a deal with me, my boy, I will know." Henry looked at him intently, then held out a hand. "Deal." It was almost painfully familiar, a bright-eyed young lad offering a hand. Rumpelstiltskin briefly clasped his fingers, then drew back. "I suppose I should go in and see what the ladies have been planning in my absence," he murmured. "I'll leave you to think about who I might be." "I'll figure it out," Henry called after him. "I always do." It was probably foolishness to trust in the boy's discretion, but he was the son of the Savior, the grandchild of Snow White and her prince. On top of that, he had all the guile of the queen. And there was something more there, some spark of fierce cunning that certainly didn't come from his mother's side. Rumpelstiltskin approached the kitchen, pushing the door open. Mary Margaret, Emma, and Miss Boyd were sitting at the table. Ashley Boyd's eyes were swollen and red, and the moment he entered the room, she wrapped her arms protectively around her belly. Emma rose at once, and Rumpelstiltskin noticed with amusement that she placed herself directly between him and the girl. "You found her, then?" "I did," she said with quiet defiance. "And we are going to sit down at this table, and you are going to find some way for her to keep her child." He put his head slightly to one side. "Will she repay what she was paid? Will she inform the couple that she is withdrawing her offer?" he murmured. "I'll do anything," Ashley said. His lips twitched. "Be mindful, dear," he murmured. As I recall, you said you would do anything to be out of the mess you found yourself in, and now you're reneging on that. Anything is not negotiable. She shrank back in the chair. You're not taking my baby. You offered me anything, he reminded her quietly, when you have nothing. All you have is the child. I'm a businessman, Miss Boyd. Cameron, Mary Margaret said quietly, just this once, can't you cancel the contract? He didn't dare to look at her, knowing exactly how disappointed she would look. If I canceled one, then why not all? He said simply. This comes down to a matter of principle and law. I cannot be seen breaking one deal for one individual who didn't think about the small print. I can't do it without a repayment of some kind. I'll repay it, Emma cut in. Tell me how much it was. No, Ashley exclaimed. You can't. Emma turned a fierce look on her. I won't let your baby be taken, she said. I made you that promise. She looked at Rumpelstiltskin again. How much? Rumpelstiltskin looked back at her. I won't accept your money, Miss Swan. This wasn't your deal. She stepped closer to him. Then make a deal with me, she said, arms folded over her chest. Is that what it'll take? He looked at her. 2 deals with 2 generations in one day. Very well, he murmured. Let's say you'll owe me a favor. What kind of favor? She asked, her eyes cool and hard. He lifted his shoulder. Something will no doubt come up, he murmured. It would never be a disadvantage to have the Savior owing him, even if it just meant having her save his skin when the curse broke. Do we have a deal? Emma nodded curtly. Deal, she said.